Here we are, folks. Patch 8 has arrived, and we are coming up on 2 years since Baldur's Gate 3 launched on PC, and coming up on 5 when we get to October of this year of when we had access to Baldur's Gate 3, as it did launch into early access with Early Access Act 1. Before we get into these patch notes, I just want to say big thank you to the Baldur's Gate 3 community that has watched my channel over the years. I've been covering this game for coming up on 6 years, because I covered it before Early Access came out, and it's been an absolute blast. It's a little bittersweet that we're here at patch 8, which is supposedly the final content patch, which I think it actually is. So thank you guys for that. Let's go ahead and jump right into the patch notes and go over them just like I've been doing for the past 5 daggone years.
Timmy!
Whoa!
Timmy! No! Ah!
Before we jump into the patch notes, I do just want you guys to see right here. Look at this. That's not what I want. I'm not prepared. This is, you guys shouldn't be watching me. I'm not prepared. Okay, here it is. So this was Baldur's Gate 3 in early access when it first launched. And I think this is right around patch 1 for early access. So not patch 1 after release. And just take a look at it. Look at how different it is. Look where the initiative order, we have the opponents up here in the bottom or in the top left. Look at the mini map. Look at the hotbar. It doesn't look nearly as good. I just wanted to share that quickly. The game has come a long way, and it looks even crazier when you look at it pre-early access. And here we are, patch 8. The final patch, new subclasses, photo mode, and crossplay. It's out right now for PC and console and Mac. All of us got it at the same time. Now, I do normally summarize these first parts right here in these videos, but I want to read these first paragraphs directly out of Larian's mouth because this is kind of a meaningful patch. It's the last major one. You deserve to hear it from them. Well, folks, this is it. Our final major game patch for Baldur's Gate 3. You've helped us make Baldur's Gate 3 a bigger success than any of us could have ever hoped for, and that passion could keep us tweaking things and making changes until the end of time, but then we'd never be able to create something new. Outside of minor bug fixing, patch 8 will be the last game patch to introduce new content. That means we won't be adding any new narrative content or significant changes to storylines, origin characters, or companions. Now, to be fair, Larian did say something along those lines in the past, and then we still got more patches that had like some form of content, I guess, but I think this is actually it. We've told our stories the way we needed to tell them and tried our best to make them impactful and engaging, and we're continuing to get better at handling our own chaos so that we can continue to create more chaos in the future. From the start, your feedback has been incredibly important to us and will continue to shape our future projects. As Sven said during the Baldur's Gate 3 retrospective panel at PAX West in August of last year, it's time for the team to go back to our cave and hang the armor on the wall while we focus on bringing you our next project. As many of you are aware, Larian is actually working on 2 upcoming ambitious RPGs, which is great news for the future of gaming. They're most likely focusing in more on one, and we know that there's going to be an early access period, at least for one of them, so probably an unfinished Act 1 phase. And in reality, when you think about that, although the game may be 3, 4, 5, maybe even more years away, early access could potentially be a year or 2 away, which isn't that far, and then we can all dip our toes into the next Larian game and have an exciting lead up to whatever that game is. Okay, on to actual patch 8 stuff. Sorry, we're several minutes into the video. In my defense, I do have chapter markers. Up first, we now have Steam trading cards. So BG3 now supports Steam trading cards. So I don't really know, I don't do stuff like this, but apparently you can collect trading cards by doing certain things and playing games, and then you can turn the trading cards into like Steam badges and emojis and stuff that you can use on Steam. So if you spend a lot of your time on Steam, like it's a social media site, there you go. Get your badges and stuff. And apparently a lot of people wanted it, so thank you, Larian, for that. We also have crossplay, of course, the long-awaited crossplay. PC, Mac players, Xbox, and PlayStation 5. We can all play together now. This is going to create a lot of longevity for the game. So excited for it. And I'm even thinking back, like, what friends did I have in high school and college that have consoles that I haven't been able to game with for the past 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years that I can probably get to play Baldur's Gate 3 now. It's such a great feature. Do note, though, as Larian says right here, that if you join somebody in crossplay, you do have to have the same mods installed. So we're talking official mods, like ones that you install from the Baldur's Gate 3 mod manager when you're in the game itself. The good thing is that Larian does say that when you join a host game, you'll be prompted with the mod verification window that will let you know like what you need or what you shouldn't have to match up. Also on this subject, if you're a PC player creating a cross-play lobby, you can use the available on console and Mac tag, when you're browsing the mod manager to make sure that you don't install mods that people on Mac and console don't have access to. To crossplay, from the Baldur's Gate 3 main menu, just click on multiplayer, and in the top right, we now have a crossplay tab. Do note that everybody that's playing, including yourself, you all have to have a Larian account, and right here, you'll be able to see your friends' lobbies, but if you want to create your own lobby and be the host, just click on create in the bottom right, and it'll bring you to this next page, and there you go. You can add your friends, you can choose what settings you want, and all that good stuff. I also just want to add right here at the end of the section that Xbox Series S players now have split screen. Up next, we have photo mode, where we can position and pose our party, play around with camera settings, and whack a few stickers on there. Photo mode is now yours to explore with patch 8. Now, some of you guys might already be going to the next chapter marker. Stay for a second. This is so cool. Larian went so far and above and beyond. That apparently is a habit of theirs to go above and beyond. But on PC, I think on console, you click both analog sticks down, but on PC, you can just simply hit F9 to enter photo mode. Or if you guys look at the mini map right here, there's a little photo mode button that you can press, and you enter into photo mode. Now check this out. Look, I can just kind of, whoa, oh my God. I can just kind of fly around freely with the camera. We can choose who we want to focus on. I can tilt the camera. We can do all sorts of positioning, offsetting. We can go to the other tab right here, and we have field of view so you can see more. We have depth of field stuff to make like the distance a little bit more blurry. If I go over to character settings right here, check out Shadowheart's face right now. Watch this. Her expression is default right now. Look what we can do. Afraid, asleep, disgusted. This is so crazy. You can also choose to have NPCs and enemy combatants not showing in your pictures if you don't want them to. We have different poses. Now she's got her arms crossed, an art pose. Can show weapons, show battle damage. The next tab gives us a bunch of post-processing effects that we can do with contrast and stuff like that. And then we have frames. We can add frames to the picture. And of course, stickers. So we can just put stickers all over. If I add this sticker of Helson right here, now we have Helson, and we can of course change the positioning. So far above and beyond for a photo mode. And I think a lot of fans greatly appreciate this. And to go even more above and beyond, Larian has made it so that modders through the official BG3 toolkit can actually create their own stickers and upload them, and then other players can download them. So right here we have a few pictures here from some community members that are using the photo mode. It's so cool. That's a great picture right there. Oh my gosh. And after you take the picture by pressing spacebar on PC players are going to access it by going to their main drive, which will be drive C for most. Then you're going to go down to users, click on your username, then into documents, and then you're going to find Larian Studios, Baldur's Gate 3. And then I have two folders here, anti-ethel newts. Oh, shit. One folder here called screenshots, and there you have it. Here's a quick picture I just took of Shadowheart. For console players, it will be in your media gallery, whatever that is on your consoles. Moving on, of course, the biggest thing here with patch 8 is that 12 new subclasses have been introduced, featuring new abilities, animations, VFX, unique summons, powerful cantrips, and voice dialogue for the Oathbreaker Knight for those playing as the Oath of the Crown Paladin class. So we have Path of the Giant Barbarian, College of Glamour Bard, Death Domain Cleric, love Death Domain, Circle of the Stars Druid, also love that subclass, Arcane Archer Fighter, super powerful, Way of the Drunken Master Monk is kind of thematic and funny, Oath of the Crown Paladin, Swarmkeeper Ranger, Swashbuckler Rogue is likely going to be a fan favorite, Shadow Magic Sorcerer, so awesome, so good, Hexblade Warlock, so awesome, so good. I might do a duo honor mode run. Some of you guys might be watching this while I'm actually live, because I'll be live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on this channel and on Twitch. And Bladesinging Wizard, also a very cool subclass. If you guys want more information on these subclasses, I did drop a video yesterday called Baldur's Gate 3 Which New Subclasses is for You, and I go over all of them. It's a 53-minute video that goes over the core features that'll help you decide which one is for you. I'll leave a link directly down below and in the pinned comment. Larian has a quick section here telling you how to unlock the new subclasses, because keep in mind, some of these classes don't unlock their subclass features or choices until level 2 or level 3, so you might not see it right away. With a few of them, Cleric, Sorcerer, Paladin, and Warlock, you can get access to the new subclasses right away when you respec or when you start a new game. For the Druid and the Wizard, it's not until level 2, and Barbarian, Bard, Fighter, Monk, Ranger, and Rogue, you'll have to get to level 3. Just a reminder here, because this is in the patch notes, Larian does have a YouTube channel called Larian Channel from Hell. I'll leave a link to that down below as well, and they directly upload some of their own YouTube content, and they also go over the subclasses and do a bunch of cool fun stuff. 2 new cantrips off the top of my head, even though there are more that have been added. Booming Blade, it's so good. You create a Shadow Blade and it deals a ton of psychic damage. And also Toll the Dead, is really good for so many classes, but great for the cleric, as clerics don't really have any like decent damage dealing cantrips, and Toll the Dead fills that role. Moving on, Baldur's Gate 3 modding has its own section here, and I do have chapter markers below if you don't care about this. Baldur's Gate 3 toolkit. So the patch 8 actually comes with an update for the modding toolkit, and Larian says that mod authors will now be able to explore partial level editing, whether you fancy creating your own NPC, dropping a metric ton of carrots across every existing level just for the sake of it, pledging your undying love to Shadowheart by turning all wolves into bunny rabbits, or by moving them to the House of Hope. You'll now be able to use the toolkit to add or override certain templates or template types in existing levels. This is awesome because the official modding toolkit is quite limited into what you're actually able to do, and this allows people to take it a little bit further and actually make the game feel quite unique. So I'm actually very excited for this because a lot of people don't do Nexus mods. They only use the official mods, and this is going to make for some really fun mods to mess around with. Now, do keep in mind, and I'll have a video soon, I'm getting back into the Baldur's Gate 3 hype here. There's a lot of mod authors that are creating custom mods, like on Nexus mods, like offsite, that are like full campaigns for this game, and they have access to like full-on level editors they've unlocked it. I'll make an update. I'll do an updated video on that very soon because that's very exciting for the future of BG3, the unofficial future. With this official toolkit update, you're still not going to be able to add dialogues or change the static parts of the world like building, scenery, or terrain. Larian says you can, however, create your own interactive objects like a chest that teleports away every time you get close to it. No one will touch your belongings ever again, including you. Or you can make a salami statue that you can put in your pocket. The world is truly yours. So this is actually really important. This is a great part of this update. Now, modders that are actually creating the mods, Larian has an entire section here, and I'll have a link to this article down below to help you get to it more easily. But there's a few things that you do have to keep in mind. The guidelines have been updated. The UI functionality has received improvements for the modding toolkit. And also keep in mind that at the launch of patch 8 right now, you might not actually be able to use some of the old mods. This might create some problems, so just be patient for a week or two as mod authors update things and get things working. Okay, we've reached the section of endless patch notes here, and what I'm going to do, like I always do, is skim through these, and anything that's important put on a separate document. I'm just going to read them off to you as some new subclass video footage that Larian made plays in the background. All of the main big features of this patch I did already discuss though, so if you guys are leaving right now, thank you so much for watching. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, this game has been a blessing to cover, and the community that came with it has also been a blessing too. So thank you guys. Maybe I'll see some of you guys on the stream tonight or later in this week. For gameplay, fix containers inside inventories not scattering their contents when they got destroyed, which could potentially lead to key quest items getting lost for good. Fixed an issue where picking up items from the ground in multiplayer could then block movement via the controller stick. Fixed the wild shape Panther's prowl action and prowling condition not working correctly. When you succeed a perception check, the spotted item will now ping on the minimap and be listed in the combat log. Fixed an issue where the special abilities of some of your allies weren't properly provided at the end of dialogue with them at High Hall. Scrolls and potions inside unlocked containers in your party inventory can now be used when rolling in dialogues. It's actually very noteworthy. Neutral and friendly NPCs will no longer become hostile when outside of combat, and they walk into surfaces created during combat that trigger passives like electrified surfaces. Fixed free cast being reset when any condition is applied. Fixed characters getting stuck when pathfinding via a ladder that's already in use by another companion. Fixed a bug with the moving platform in the Gauntlet of Shar that would sometimes leave you behind, causing you to plummet to your death. This is a very, very important fix right here for honor mode specifically. The self-tame trial in the Gauntlet of Shar will now offer a proper challenge to those using modded classes. Fixed war magic being active before extra attack, forcing the player to use a bonus action before getting access to other extra attacks. Eldritch Knights now properly use free extra attacks before their war magic attack. Fixed valiant damage not triggering properly. Fixed an issue with Shadowblade spells and the Knife of the Undermountain King dagger not granting advantage against an obscured target. Updated elemental weapon to allow all damage types to all spell levels and include upcast benefits at level 5 and 6. Fixed an honor mode issue at High Hall where all party members would die when reaching the top of the stem if anyone in the party was being dominated by an enemy, causing a game over. Very important. Fixed a bug where difficulty in game settings wouldn't save properly when adjusted after experiencing a game over in honor mode. Okay, combat. Fixed an issue causing neutral NPCs to trigger combat for seemingly no reason. Sirius will stop getting involved in combats with Minthara from across the region. Fixed a bug causing damage riders to be added multiple times in honor mode. Fixed a sneak attack not activating for actions that spawn additional projectiles like curving shot. There's a ton of fixes that have been added for modding, bug fixes, and just to make it overall a much smoother, better experience. We have Steam Deck optimization. FSR setting is now FSR 2.2 on quality, and there's improved server performance in the Adamantine Forge. Now onto the scripting and flow category. With 12 new subclasses arriving in patch 8, we've rechecked some achievements, including ensuring the armed version of the Stunning Strike no longer counts as an unarmed attack for the Fist of Fury achievement, and its unarmed variant now does. Monk's unarmed strike bonus action now correctly counts toward the Action Surge achievement. They fixed an issue where you could tell Astarion that Gandrel has now been looking for him, even if Gandrel refused to tell you the name of his prey. Fixed a save game issue where you wouldn't get the appropriate amount of Umbral gems from the Gauntlet of Shar. Helsim will now show up to your camp in Act 2 as long as you saved him, even if you happen to skip the celebration with the tieflings at the camp. Minthara now comments on the Emperor's reveal. Larian reminded Minthara that knocked out does not mean dead, so she'll more reliably appear in Moonrise Towers. You can no longer teleport out of Moonrise while controlling Minthara unless you tell her to stay put. Minthara is now willing to talk to you after you tell her to wait in the torture chamber. Minthara no longer gets stuck babysitting Thaniel in Act 2. Your character will no longer think Shadowheart is dead if she isn't when talking to Viconia. Not that I'm really doing spoiler warnings, but close your ears for like 10 seconds. I'm going to say something right now that is an endgame spoiler. Here it goes. Characters who were in a relationship with Gale when he sacrifices himself in the endgame to defeat the Netherbrain will now receive a tonally appropriate red lovey-dovey letter that was missing. Okay, spoiler over. Fixed a dialogue issue preventing Avatar Gale from talking about the orb to Lae'zel after consuming a magic item. You should no longer be able to ask Shadowheart about her Shar worship after recruiting her at the Goblin Camp if you don't know about her faith. For animations, Larian has added dance animations for some creatures that didn't have it, like addercaps, kobolds, and harpies. There's been a few art changes here that mostly involve like clipping and stuff like that have been fixed. Moving on to the UI, discovered and available non-hostile alive, etc. traders are now shown on the world map regardless of how far away you are from them. And there's a ton of UI bug fixes as well as tooltip fixes, meaning that the correct tooltips will now state the correct things for things that weren't showing correctly. Larian updated the credits to include developers who have worked on the game since release, playtesters, moderators, and Baldur's Gate 3 toolkit testers. How cool is that? It's, once again, above and beyond. And Larian also updated the order of the voice actor credits to prioritize larger roles at the top. For sound, Larian added a new spot where the Easter egg song plays, Happy Hunting. They restored some of the original music from the scene with Answer before its rework. For cinematic, Shadowheart has agreed to stop repeatedly changing her hair color during certain intimate moments. Larian tidied up and improved some cinematic animations for characters of different heights if you kiss during the evil ending. Fixed the VO getting cut off prematurely for Githyanki and Drow characters entering the Shadow Curse lands for the first time. For multiplayer, we have a bunch of bug and crash fixes, including something on the PS5 where there was a loop where you would be taken back to the PlayStation Plus upgrade screen whenever you try to join a lobby without permissions. There's a section for crashes and blockers. There's just a ton of fixes involving that stuff. So any of you guys that are experiencing crashes and stuff like that, hopefully it's much better now. Then we have a combat imbalance section. So across all the acts, the potent spellcasting passive now affects Bursting Sinew and Toll the Dead. So these are new things with patch 8. Some of you guys might not recognize those cantrips because they weren't in the game until now. The Owlbear's Rage condition has been fixed. Larian fixed the Icy Cloud formed via Wall of Ice, the Wall of Ice spell, dealing 5d6 instead of 10d6, so a nerf. Ghouls and Ghast should no longer be able to paralyze Drow characters. Updated Wild Strike so that it can work with the War Priest extra attack. Tavern Brawler works with Wild Shapes in Honor mode once again. Larian fixed some of the creatures summoned at higher levels that were missing the hide action, so that should show now. They fixed Evasive Footwork only working against melee weapon attacks and now works with any melee attack. Fixed area-based spells like Lightning Bolt and Sunbeam not working on the Red Caps and the Blushing Mermaid. Larian updated the Wild Shape rules for Myrmidons to merge the Myrmidons' proficiencies with the character. Glyph of Warding now works correctly with item effects like those granted by the Spell Sparkler, Morning Frost, and Winter's Clutches. Larian fixed some issues that players were having with Uncanny Dodge. All Wildheart Rages now give bonus damage to offhand melee weapon attacks as intended, so that's an important update here. Wildheart Rages should now also deal the improved damage past level 9. Larian updated War Magic to make sure it works with extra attack if you trigger War Magic during an extra attack. I thought we already said that. Shadow Blade granted by the Shadow Blade Ring no longer requires concentration. For Act 1 specifically, in Honor Mode, the Papa Owlbear will now correctly gain Owlbear's Rage when the Mama Owlbear or their cub dies. Gave the Shadow Curse Shambling Mound some bifidobacteria-rich yogurt to regulate its digestive juices. The condition now makes the target vulnerable to bludgeoning damage as advertised. The Susur Anti-Magic Field will now also prevent you from casting spells like Shield via reactions. Act 2 specifically, Balthazar can now cast Shield in Tactician mode. In Tactician and Honor mode, Malice Thorn will now use his multi-attack at 70% HP instead of 40%. In Tactician mode, increase the spell level of Karnus Sanctuary spell from 4 to 5. They fixed a bug related to fleeing from combat with Ketheric. You now have to leave the Moonrise Tower's region in order to successfully flee. And in Act 3, in the Knights of the Shield combat, the Gate Masters will no longer bring reinforcements after the portals are closed. The infinite supply of Githyanki spawning from nowhere was a little disconcerting, says Larian. The Slayer form has some updates to it, making it work as intended and correctly. Surprising Orin in the Temple of Baal will no longer cause the Boon of Baal to take its turn at the same time as her. Gortash's manifestations of tyranny now have an appropriate unarmed attack. Larian fixed Black Gauntlets being able to target characters under Sanctuary with Phantasmal Killer. Gortash was over-enthusiastically using Tyrant's Bindings, so Larian made him less eager about it when other actions would make more sense, and a bug has been fixed with Gortash where he was reacting to invoke the Black Hand every time he got damage. That bug has been fixed. Back to a gameplay section. Across all acts, Larian reminded enemy NPCs that it's okay to kill the unconscious party member after they commit a crime. The Summon Us item is no longer tradable. Greater invisibility stealth checks now get progressively harder in Honor mode. Important to note. Prevented fast travel, like going to the camp via the hotbar, while on moving platforms like the cable car by the Rosamorn Monastery, which could cause your characters to plummet to their death in the interim. Fixed an issue where you couldn't use sneak attack again on your next turn if the enemy before you in the initiative order was killed. There's been some multiplayer changes where the bug should be fixed. Looting many items at once is now about 15 times faster, so the game will no longer lock up for some time when you do so. You can now dash with actions and bonus actions with Rangers Companions. And a few items that have been fixed to work as intended. In Act 1, Alfira will now join in on your performance of the Deluxe Edition songs. In Act 2, you'll now need to deal with a healed Ketheric and company if you long rest during the assault on Moonrise. The passage of time heals all, says Larian. A little buff there for those of you guys that were taking advantage of that. You can't do it anymore. More in Act 2 here, and I guess if you're worried about spoilers, just, move on to the next section. You can no longer use silence to keep the protective dome over the last light from collapsing if Shadowheart kills Night Song. You should no longer get stuck in combat on the roof of Moonrise Towers if there aren't any enemies left. And wild-shaped druids are no longer instantly arrested by the Army of the Absolute when following the road to Baldur's Gate from the Shadow-Cursed lands. Now on to Act 3 specifically. Shadowheart's parents will no longer turn hostile when they shouldn't. That's good. Steel Watchers can no longer get drunk. That's a shame. Fixed a flow issue in the epilogue letting you say, "My home is with Gale" to Jaheira, even if you were never in a relationship with him. And there's a bunch of other fixes that I'm just skimming over here because they're highly specific. I think anyone who needs everything is probably going to be reading these notes themselves. Now we're on to the flow and scripting changes and updates. Larian fixed an issue with the Shadowheart vs. Lae'zel fight night where the defeated character could still survive the night and would hang around without being able to join the party. Some characters who were stuck in wild shape form have been fixed. Larian fixed a case where the non-summoned version of Scratch had no dialogue at camp. Balance has been restored. An issue where some of Shadowheart's incurable wound flare-ups would block later flare-ups, blocking off some later content has been fixed. Larian fixed a bug where origins that were resurrected for camp nights during region transitions and died outside of the camp were not sent back to camp. You no longer need to interact with Night Song and Isabel at the end of Act 2 to receive the Gather Your Allies ability. Gale will no longer demand to eat your magical trinkets if you don't even have him recruited to the party. For those of you that found the bug of Glut, where he was allowed to travel outside of the Underdark if you used a waypoint from within the camp, that has been fixed. So you can't take Glut out anymore. It's kind of sad. A ton of dialogue and just issues where dialogue would come in that isn't supposed to be there has been fixed. I mean, there's a huge list of this. In Act 2, hostile last light in residence will now become neutral again when the hostility is caused by an erroneous reaction to Minthara. Larian added some fallback so you can still confront Oliver after destroying the Night Dome, even if you and or Oliver are silenced. The Moon Lantern crafted at Moonrise Towers will now protect you from the Shadow Curse as intended. Minthara's Speak with the Dead dialogue options now make more sense if she dies in Act 2 before joining the party. A certain plaque in the Thorn Mausoleum now correctly mentions who the coffin belongs to. I'm going to go checking that out probably pretty soon. Party members will now comment on the area below Moonrise Towers if they fall through either entrance in the prison. Now we're in Act 3, so once again, spoiler warnings, but if one of your companions is abducted by Orin with a mysterious artifact on them and then sacrificed at the altar, the artifact will now be returned to a party member. Nice fix. Lae'zel will now respond more appropriately after you kill Voss in the sewers if she is loyal to Orpheus. Fix the Emperor thinking you don't have all the nether stones if one of them is in a camp chest. The Steel Watchers at Baldur's Mouth no longer sometimes slack off in their security duties if you've killed Gortash. Been a bunch of fixes with Minsk's dialogue, prompting dialogue that is not supposed to be in that spot. For journal updates and changes, the journal will now close the Free the Artist quest after you defeat Carrie. It will no longer tell you to go get a portrait from Oscar if he and Janeth split up, since he won't make one in that case. There's also been fixes to the Avenge the Drowned journal update, the Steal a Githyanki journal update, the Rescue the Druid Helson and Find a Cure update, and Larian tweaked a journal update in the Raid the Emerald Grove quest to avoid suggesting player involvement in the cases where it wasn't possible. We have a very big section on modding here, including the toolkit, so a lot of updates and fixes to modding. There's a bunch of performance and option improvements here, as well as a ton of UI updates where things were overlapping with each other, the wrong values were showing, there was duplicates of certain things, error messages, all that stuff has been fixed. This includes a bunch of things that involve the tooltips as well for newer players who are still using those. There's been a few icon and portrait updates to make things match their visuals. We have a ton of controller multiplayer and split screen updates here for bugs and things that needed to be updated that weren't working correctly. And this brings us into level design. Larian added a memorial portrait to the streets of Rivington. They tweaked some rocks and bookcases to improve the appearance of the cutscene at camp where Lae'zel attacks you, depending on where it happens. Fixed some lopsided and upside down chairs, letting you sit on them anyway. Fixed a gap in the wall near the verge of the shadows. Fixed some terrain that was protruding from the ground in the Shadow Curse lands. They grounded some floating rocks in the ruined battlefield. Moved the hireling spawn points to prevent them from spawning in Shadowheart's tent. Pretty sizable list of art updates and changes just to make things look better and more appropriate. We have a very, very big list of animation changes, so overall just a huge pass on everything you can think of that involves animation in this game. And there's also quite a few sound fixes as well. I know there are a few sound bugs when I was last playing. It looks like Larian has addressed these. We have a pretty big list of VFX improvements here, so very important to Baldur's Gate 3, of course, because visual effects are one of its strong points. An entire section here just dedicated to writing. We have a very large list of cinematic updates where we get improved camera shots, mocap animations, character staging, facial expressions, and dialogues. There's just a ton of cinematic type changes, a very large list for all 3 acts. So overall, that should be nice. And that's actually it. I don't want to read through all of those. Those are highly specific. It was really hard to choose which ones I should actually talk about and which ones I shouldn't. But as you guys can see, this list is quite huge. And I think anybody that actually wants to see everything, you guys are already reading through it yourself. But hopefully I mentioned the things that were big here. So yeah, that's going to be it for this patch video. And I'm sure there's going to be some hot fixes in the future, but it looks like we're done with official patches. So yeah. I will be covering Larian's next games, of course. It's a big focus of my channel, and I'll be doing everything throughout the early access process, lore videos, all the updates, all the news, all that good stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy your time in patch 8. I'll have plenty of videos on this channel coming out, going over some of the patch 8 content and having fun with builds and all that good stuff. So yeah, catch you guys in the next one.